This is the Dental Up Podcast, your daily source for insights from dentists and leaders in the industry. Brought to you by Keating Dental Lab, a full-service, award-winning dental lab that is here to add value to your dental practice. With high-quality restorations, friendly, reliable service, the best products and prices, come experience the Keating difference. Visit KeatingDentalLab.com for details.
Hi, I'm Bob Brandon, General Manager here at Keating Dental Lab. My guest today is Dr. Brian Rista, founder and owner of 21st Century Dental in Tinton Falls, New Jersey. Dr. Rista has worked diligently and tirelessly to create the most successful dental practice I have ever known. Now, that's a huge statement because I routinely come in contact with over 1,000 dental offices each month for the past 18 years. Today, Dr. Rista will share his secrets with us, including how he's put together such an efficient and productive team and how he keeps them motivated to produce. Dr. Rista and his partner are literally crown and bridge masters, producing an unbelievable total of 3,200 units per year consistently. This is no small task to maintain this level of production for 17 years. So sharpen your ears and listen up to my good friend, Dr. Brian Rista. Good morning, Dr. Rista. Thank you for joining us today. I know you're extremely busy, so let's get down to it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we sincerely appreciate you. And more than that, I sincerely appreciate your friendship and your loyalty. Literally for the past 15, 16 years, you've been our number one customer, and that didn't happen by accident. Tell us a little bit about your practice in New Jersey and tell us your concept and your idea for 21st Century Dental.
Sure. Well, it started 33, 34 years ago. This concept all started. But where we are now, it's a six chair. It's a high volume practice. It's done very, very efficiently. It's a quality practice.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, but it's six chairs. We work approximately 40 hours per week of direct patient care. It's a fee-for-service and PPO practice, which is what most practices are today. You know, the practice where you're going to be all fee-for-service, those are few and far between. But most of them have the model. Most of them have the model that we have. We have a very hardworking team. People come here and we like to provide them with a good environment, even though it's a very busy environment, but also an environment where they can expand and thrive. And the beauty of being as efficient as we are, we're able to compensate, employees in a very, very generous manner. So it works out pretty well.
That's nice. And I can absolutely attest to everything that you said right there. I mean, you have a loyal staff, and I can tell you treat them extremely well and extremely fair in terms of compensation. I mean, I know personally that you've had very little staff turnover in the 16 years that we've worked together. And that consistency really carries over in your patient care.
Yeah, the only thing now, Bob, that I think you're finding with most dental practices right now is we're all a little bit understaffed right now.
Correct.
That's an issue, and I'm finding it's throughout the United States, throughout the profession in general. But it's what it is. You kind of have to adapt. Again, I'm finding I'm doing pretty much almost everything now, where I had a little bit more of a more definitive role. Now my role has expanded. I mean, good, bad, and different, but that's what this quote unquote pandemic has brought out in the profession.
I think that's absolutely true. And that holds true for every single employee here in the laboratory as well. And we have over 100 right now, and we're all wearing many hats and we're all being flexible. And it is a good lesson that the pandemic has taught us that, we do have to change and we have to adapt. And, if you want to, maintain right. your same level of success, you have to embrace new challenges. And
absolutely.
And I know you personally. I mean, look, at the heart of the pandemic, when the ADA told everybody to close, I mean, I was in this lab every day, and I'm thankful that you were providing emergency services to your many thousands of patients. And we had probably 16 other customers throughout the United States that they adapted. And kudos and my hats off to you.
Yeah, and what I'm finding is The practices that are going to thrive now going forward are the ones that have adapted well, accepted the changes. Again, the key word there is accept. You got to accept the hand you've been dealt. You adapt and then take your practice to the next level. It requires a lot more hard work. I'm finding on the doctor's ends is what it is.
That's true. Absolutely. And I mean, I have this conversation with friends that are in other industries and with employees here in the laboratory and with other dentists across the country that if you're going to complain or if you're going to play the victim, you're going to get nowhere. So you better adapt.
It will never work.
Yeah.
Certainly, you have to, essentially what's happened in the last 2 years is you have to maybe adapt your game plan a little bit. And that's pretty much what I think it is. Does it make us practice any differently? No, but what it does, it changes your approach to how you do certain things.
Absolutely. I mean, in the early days, we were in early days. I mean, 2 years ago now, we were in survival mode. And, we were just trying to scrape by. Sean kept a very small staff here, and, you and I still spoke every day, but, right. Then we got through survival mode. Then we got back into, okay, let's bring some staff back. And we were very strategic in, the order and which departments we brought back first. And now, as your practice is as well, now you're just in this area of tremendous growth, which is, again, it's challenging, it's exciting, but you have to be flexible and adapt to that.
Correct. And the growth is due to the fact that for almost a year and a half, a lot of patients did not have the necessary care that they needed. And let's face it, dentistry, it doesn't go away. The problem
right.
it's not like you can turn off the switch and it stops,
Absolutely. I had friends that, same thing. They were like, oh man, I had this really bad toothache and it was June of 2020. But then it went away. And I told them, I was like, that's not a good thing. You might think it's a good thing, but it's not.
Another doctor who I treat, he happens to be an optometrist, and he said it probably as well as anybody. He said, and I quote, "We are in the category in medical of delayed necessities."
Yeah, good, very good observation.
Right. If you got a heart attack, you're going right to the ER. I mean, you got a toothache, maybe I'll call the dentist, maybe I won't. There's a difference.
Yeah.
So that resonated more than anything. Delayed necessity.
I love it. That could be the title for this episode.
Right. We've delayed everything a year and a half, and now you have the necessity coming out, and that's where the growth is coming from. All the necessary treatment that was not maybe done for whatever it was, 3 months, 6 months, a year. It's been a ride. This is a period of growth, and if your practice is not thriving right now, I think you need to take a serious, hard look at yourself and maybe your business model or your plan going forward.
Agreed, 100%. Yeah, we're definitely, we're in that same where, we have this growth and, we've got a plan and, it's trying to keep everybody on the same page for the plan right now, but we'll get there.
Always do.
Yep. So let's talk a little bit more about the relationship. I mean, you and I literally speak every day. I mean, I hope my wife's not listening, but you and I talk more than I talk to my wife. But how did you first come to know Keating Dental Arts?
All right. Well, it's a long time ago. We're going to go back probably 25 years ago. I mean, maybe a little bit longer, maybe 25 to 30 years ago. Your colleague, Sean, worked with another laboratory at the time that we, sent work to, and we did some restorative work with. And I got to know him a little bit at that time. His personality is it's one you remember. Let's put it that way. And I know he was the Crown and Bridge manager. And essentially, he wasn't going to be the manager there unless he really knew what he was doing. Let's face it.
Oh, yeah. He taught me and
Correct.
Most of our employees. Yeah, absolutely.
You could see he's very knowledgeable. He's very good at what he does. So what happened was I always put we stopped using the laboratory, and we went separate ways. And about 10 years later, we were doing lab work with a certain few laboratories in the area, and we needed a change. And sure enough, I heard Sean's voice around one of my ears say, "Hey, you did some work." So again, and the other thing too is that there was a local doctor who had used Keating Dental Arts at the time, and I happened to see some of the final restorations, and I'm like, this is where we're going to try next, So I called Sean. So I don't know if you remember me. I was, a client in such and such laboratory, and then it just took off.
Oh, wow. That is so cool.
Yeah. I've known Sean indirectly, probably close to 30 years.
Wow.
It's a long time.
That is a long time. And it's a
long time.
It's a testament, but I mean, that's a testament to, the relationship and the loyalty and the friendship and, everything, because I mean, this is the dentist lab relationship is unique, but it has a lot of traits that are similar to any relationship, a personal relationship, a spousal relationship, anything, it comes back to communication. And absolutely. Even though, you and I talked about two cases this morning, and I could tell, we're on the same page like 99% of the time. But it's still great to have that conversation, pick up the phone and say, okay, you know what, Mrs. Jones needs, it's tooth number 14 and I'm reading your finish line, and this may not mill out. You may not like the margins, on a monolithic zirconia on this. And you said it before I even got the sentence out. Okay, let's go PFM.
Well, that's the relationship. That's being able to feed off of each other, because the greatest source of stress I find being a dentist for as long as I have is in the quality and relationship of the laboratory. And I'll highlight that for a minute. The stress comes from, as dentists, every procedure that we do, whether you're putting a simple restoration, whether you're extracting a tooth, whether you're doing endodontic therapy, whatever it is, you have total control over. Total. Okay? When you have an impression or a scan that leaves your office and goes to a laboratory, that can be a very, very large stress in a practice. And it's the one area that you don't have total control as a doctor. You don't have it, because once that scan leaves, it's in someone else's hands to deliver what you want them to deliver.
That's a great point. And I never really looked at it in that exact scenario that you just painted. And you just opened my eyes to that. That's fantastic, because I've told people here in the laboratory, it's like, guys, we're responsible for 1/3 of this job. The doctor's got to treatment plan it, diagnose it, prep it, take the impression or the scan and send it to us. Then we get the middle third. We get the execution, fabrication of the restoration. We have to execute his prescription and his or her plan to perfection. So yeah, right. The 1/3 that we do, you're right, you have no control over, and it could be stressful. I see your point very well.
Well, I find in doing this, it's the number one area of potential stress in a dental practice. Aside from the doctor, maybe not making his or her, making good, sound clinical decisions, that's on the doctor. But in terms of outside stress, that's the biggest source.
Yeah.
Source. And if, it can make, I always find the laboratory, the quality, the timing, it can either make or break. I'm not saying a practice, because you should be able to, move on if the laboratory isn't doing what you need them to do. It can be certainly make or break a day. That's for sure. If you have a bunch of restorations come back, they seat right in, you're having a great day. I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
If you're sending half of your, crowns back, whether it be for contacts, margins, occlusion, that turns into like a nightmare scenario. It really does. It just puts a lot more stress. And that is, I think, by far and away, beyond staffing issues and everything that a doctor has control over, it's the number one source of external stress in a practice, or potentially could be.
Right. I mean, you're relying us to be an extension of of your practice, an extension of your office. And yeah, things, I mean, in the last 16 years, things haven't always gone perfect here. And I remember a lot of the hard conversations that we had, like, what's going on? How can we, how do we nail this? And it's hard. It's hard. The consistency is the hardest thing about this business. And I tell our people here in the lab, guys, we're only as good as our last case. And I know you've got 16 of them for Dr. Rista here on your desk, but all 16 have to be consistent and high quality, because that's just the way life is. You've got 16 human beings that these restorations are going into.
You know what I equate the laboratory to? Okay. As doctors, as general dentists, we do refer some procedures out to specialists. Okay. And we rely on those specialists to be an extension of our treatment. That could be a source of stress also.
Sure.
So I view the laboratory as a specialist. We're referring so it's the same. When you think about it, it's somewhat similar. I mean, don't get me wrong. The concept is very, very different, but there's similarities to it.
Oh, there are. I agree. Yeah.
Laboratory is a specialty that you're sending your work to, and that product is a direct or an indirect reflection of the general dentist who's providing it. And it's the same thing when you refer someone to a specialist. If they're not treated well, the patient will come back and maybe say, hey, don't send me there again, or why did you do that? And it's fairly similar, just different. It's different, but it has similarities.
It absolutely has similarities. And your volume, the number of patients you treat, the number of lab cases and prosthetic work you generate is truly off the charts. I mean, tell me a little bit more about you and your partner and how many patients you treat, because I mean, I'm going to put a number out here, and I know you've seen them, but your average lab bill for the last dozen years has been between $350,000 and $360,000 a year. That's a lot. That's a lot of work. I mean, your office is our second, third, and fourth highest generators combined. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you keep everybody motivated to keep producing that number.
Well, here's what it is. Out of the whatever we're talking, 350,000. The way I look at it, as long as the lab, but I'll start with this. As long as the work comes back good and it decreases my stress, I look at it as money well spent. If I'm more efficient in that chair because I can have restorations go in 5 minutes as opposed to 20 minutes, it pays for itself. It's the way I look at it, it's money well spent. So you kind of ask me what is a typical day is like here. Okay. On a given day, we work, it's my partner and I, we work together Monday through Thursday. We alternate the Friday, Saturdays. This way we have coverage every single weekend for the practice. Essentially what it is for me, I'll explain my day. I'm here minimum an hour before the first patient comes in the door. Okay. And
yeah, when you said 40 hours, I know that was direct patient care, but I know it's closer to 60.
It may very well be, but to keep a practice like this at a high level, you need to be fully committed to it. As a doctor, owner, whatever hat you're describing here. But a typical day for me would be to come in here an hour before. Lately, I've been having to help the ladies out with sterilization first thing I get in the morning because, again, understaffed COVID. So I do what is necessary here. I go through my charts, make sure when I walk into every room, I know what I'm doing, how long I should be there. I try to then have a little meeting in the morning, if it's possible, with the assistants that I'm with. We go through the schedule. And this is the way you stay efficient by just walking in the door 5 minutes before the first patient walks in, scratching your head, walking in the room, and what are we doing on Mrs. So-and-so? That's not a good way to do it.
No, that's
and you'd be surprised how many doctors that's what their MO is. That's what they're all about. They almost like they don't want to do it. But anyway,
that's like a head college football coach that doesn't have a plan that you and I have spoken about many times.
Right. The other thing is, aside from, I do necessary paperwork. I go through believe it or not, every, once a week, I go through the equipment, make sure that, your major mechanical things such as compressor, suction, make sure those are, well cared for, because if they shut down, you're not working. There's quite a bit to it.
Catastrophic, yeah.
Yeah, by the time you go through mechanical systems, patient charts, maybe some paperwork, and every doctor knows what that's all about. Whether I have to get lab cases out to you guys or whatever, I like a clean slate. Let's say my first patient is 8 o'clock in the morning. My slate is clean. There's nothing on my desk, and I am ready for what the day is going to, give me. And I find if I do it any other way, I'm playing catch up the whole day, and it just creates more and more stress. So I would rather come in a few minutes early, spend a little bit of my time, have less stress during the day, as opposed to coming in 5 minutes before a patient and just having all hell break loose. And what we do here is Monday through Thursday. Some days we work with 2 hygienists. Some days there's 3. So on certain days in here, between myself, my partner, and 3 hygienists, it's not uncommon, Bob, for us to maybe treat 60 patients.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, the stress, there was an assistant that I worked with who happened to be one of the best that I've ever had the privilege of working with. And she said it best. She said, the stress is not in, me doing my dentistry. She said, it's you doing it in a very, very efficient manner and maintaining the quality. She said, that's where the stress comes in.
You have to treat every patient to that standard. And if you deviate from your standards, or if you don't have a clear mind or a clear plan, then that's when failures and problems happen.
Right. So, and as far as the staff, we're very, we're not an office for everyone. Sometimes people come in here and, oh, yes, Dr. Rista, I work in a very busy office and this is not going to be a problem. And I'll turn them around. I'll show them the schedule during the interview and say, are you sure? And sometimes they come in here and I'll know it's not the right practice for them, because after maybe a half hour, their hair is standing up, vertically. And that's when I know. I'm like, look, you're out of your league here. So what we do is we hire very, very experienced people that, need minimal training. We look for people who are just very, very motivated, that want to expand themselves, that want to learn, because there's an awful lot to learn here. I mean, there really is. I mean, just think of all the cases that we do, all the implant work. I mean, if you have an interest for this, it's a great place to be. If you like to be a fast-paced work environment.
Yeah, because I mean, your office, you guys treat everybody, and hats off, my hats off to you, because I've seen so much variation in, the type of casework coming from your office. It's just fantastic. So yeah, I know you're educating your staff. I know you're training them and teaching them, the new procedures and, new restorations and really the right way to do things.
Right. Best way to have your staff is having them work with you, not for you. They work with me. And this way, it builds an atmosphere of trust. It builds an atmosphere where they feel like they make a difference here, which they certainly do. Compensation is one thing. That's one. You can put that off to the side. But the other thing you need is, even though it's busy, you still need a good working environment. And I'd like to think, look, there's maybe some things we could do better here, but as a whole, when new people, start to be employed here, a very common feedback I get is that, yes, it can be very, very stressful, very busy, but it's done in a very, very, very efficient manner. And that's by having the proper systems. Again, the key word there is systems. You got to have systems in place. If you're going to have a practice like this, you need to have a cookbook on how you're going to do it. The staff every staff member in here has a contract. They know what's expected of them. And as a result, it just creates a cohesive environment, because you cannot produce this kind of money unless you have a cohesive environment.
Oh, definitely. And your systems, the systems you've created for patient care, for staff interaction with patients, for, I'm sure for every single step in your office, have been maximized for efficiency, because to treat the number of patients that you guys do, you have to be efficient.
Well, we pride ourselves on being efficient, but also quality. And that's, those are the two keys to, I think, just success. And what I would say to anyone there's multiple systems. Meaning you have systems for your front staff. There are systems in place for the hygienist. There are systems in place for the assistants. And anybody who listens to this, if they want to know how to do it, and I have it all in print, they're more than welcome to pick my brain, and they can have it. That's all I'm going to tell you, Bob. And it's a podcast from your lab. But if you have anybody that wants to, feel free. Okay,
that's an extremely kind offer, and we'll discuss a good way to get that out to the Dental Lab podcast world, because my gosh, if you could create or franchise 21st century dental across the nation, oh my gosh, you would kill it. You absolutely would. And if the fact that you're willing to share this information is tremendous. So I urge anybody listening that is struggling with really anything, restorative wise, system wise, efficiency. And there's, Dr. Rista hit it on the head. There's a difference between fast and efficiency. And I tell our people here all the time, it's like, guys, efficient is getting the job done correctly, right? So you don't have to go back and redo something. If you're just doing it fast and you make mistakes, there's absolutely zero logic or reasoning in doing it that way the first time. So yeah, efficient to me is always doing the job correctly.
The first time. And the reason why, what should go through every practitioner's mind every day is just the simple value of their chair time. You don't want to waste your chair time. You want to, make it as productive as possible, but you also want to do it efficiently, and you want to do it correctly.
Right. Well, again, that's a very kind offer you've made to the Dental Lab podcast world, and I'm sure we're going to get people reaching out to you. So tell us a little bit about what's happened in the last year, and please be honest, because honesty is what makes everybody, people and companies better. Tell us what you purchased last year.
We purchased this last year. What we do each year. Rather than have just large purchases on, like once every 10 years, each year, like last year, again, this is what I would tell any, young doctor. Each year, take an area where you feel that you need to either improve either your equipment or something to expand your services that you provide, or, just some new technology. And what I'll just say to this, and I'll get to exactly what we purchased. Technology, keep in mind, all the young doctors, technology has to be two things. Number one, it has to work. And number two, it has to be cost effective. So I would tell any young practitioner today, because let's face it, it's very expensive to put these practices, these offices together today. It's very expensive. Just make sure, crunch your numbers first, before you say buy maybe like a cone beam or, scanners or, what have you, maybe a couple of rooms of equipment. If you're not using one that often, maybe you don't want to put out that outlay at this point. I always find the smartest thing to do when you're incorporating technology is make sure, number one, you're going to use it. And number two, that it's going to be cost effective to your practice. Okay. So what we did this past year, we bought one new room of ADEC equipment, but the biggest purchase was we bought two iTero scanners. We didn't buy one, we bought two, because with the volume, we put them both to use. Great investment. I'm not going to say anything specifically about the company. I don't want to get in any trouble here or anything like that.
No, that's okay, because you and I are on the same page, and I think a lot of customers actually that made the purchase are in your position, and I'll say it because it's been a challenge for us here, is the support and service side. Their sales team is off the charts. They're great.
Correct. But that's the one issue I would say to, iTero, whatever, you need to have a little better support system. It's just for what you're selling, it's not comparable. You hit it on the head. The sales team, outstanding. Support leaves a little to be desired. With that said, as far as the technology, it's great. Little intimidating. You have to get, again, it's what I just went back to as far as putting systems in your practice. It's the same thing when you buy new technology. You need the mindset that you're going to learn this, and you're going to put the time in, and you're going to put the training for your staff in. Once you have that, then it's just a matter of just changing the way you do things. Or again, I'll use the term that we used in the beginning of this podcast, adapt.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, the staff has to adapt to the technology and the equipment there. Yeah, the doctors, absolutely, and it's one of those things. It's not plug and play. It's not, get it in, turn it on, let's fire it up, and let's just start using it. There's a learning curve, and there's some challenges, and you have to adapt to the new way of doing things. I love the technology. I love the fact that there's caries detection. There's a built-in T-scan to the machine. I mean, it's just unbelievable that the function of a T-scan is in there. It's great.
But even look at, say, another piece of a technology, a cone beam. Look what that has done to, say, oral surgery, implant placement, endodontics. I mean, look what it's done in just the last 10 years. I mean, again, if it's something that you use on a daily, routinely basis, I would say it's a no-brainer to buy the piece of equipment or to purchase it. Again, it goes back to what I said. Technology, number one, it's got to work, which everything we're speaking about does work. But number two, and this is for the individual practitioner, is it cost effective for your practice?
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But anyway, those were the purchases, and next year will be something else. And but we take it one day, one day, 1 week, 1 month at a time.
Excellent, and that's all you can do. That's being adaptable. Absolutely. And flexible. So let's get into it. I know that you don't have a lot of free time because you're always, in the office and treating patients and, caring for people, really helping and caring for people. But what do you like to do outside of work for fun?
Okay. Outside of work. Well, I work out 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week.
That's awesome.
I'm an avid runner. I do enjoy that. I'm not a big golfer. A lot of people come in here and say, "Hey, Doc, you play golf?" I'm like, maybe 5, 6, 7 times a year, sometimes just for charity events. So I'm not very good. Let's face it. How good are you going to be?
Me too.
But it's okay. It's okay. When I can, I like to take maybe some long weekends. A little bit of travel is always fun. I like music. I am going back and learning, how to play the piano again after many, many, many years.
Oh,
so
cool.
That's something, occasionally a game of Kanika is fun too. So there's a lot of things that I like to do. It's just, again, you hit the nail on the head. I am very busy, and I try to sprinkle a little bit of this into my everyday. But I'm finding personal fitness for me is of paramount for, number one, my general health, but number two, I don't know that I could do the schedule or produce what I do without taking care of, your body. I really am a firm believer in that.
This is a very hard profession on your neck and spine and extremities and everything. And we've been through it where, we have dentists call in and they've been our customer for 10, 12 years. And unfortunately their body just breaks down. But taking care of your body and your fitness is phenomenal.
I think in this profession, it's not a luxury, but it's, if you want a chance at a long career and be able to, work the hours I do, put the time in, I don't think it's a luxury. I think it's a necessity.
I agree with you. Yeah, definitely. So did your boys ever want to be a dentist? Did they ever want to follow in your footsteps?
I think what they saw years ago is they looked at how hard I worked with this. And I'm not so sure. I think they probably looked at it with a little bit of like trepidation, said, not so fast, I'm not so sure, Dad. But you have to also be cut out for this. It takes a certain personality to want to do this. This is not for everybody. It's a very demanding, very difficult profession. And when I looked at 2 out of 3 of my sons, I was like, I'm not so sure that they would mesh well in this. One I thought would, But you know what? They've all gone a different avenue. They're all in very, very good financial careers. And you know what? God bless them. That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely. They carved their own path, and
correct. And I'm very proud.
And they're very successful. They're all are very successful. And my congratulations and hats off to you and Meg for raising three tremendously, intelligent, successful young men. I mean, I'm struggling with mine right there. I've got one in the background that I think he's going to be fine, but I've got one that, I need her to kind of venture off and carve her own path, but we'll see.
And that's, that they, what I found, Bob, is they all find their way, but they all find it at a different level, meaning one may find their way at age 20, 24, 26, and it's just no rhyme or reason to it. They find it at their own pace.
Absolutely. That's being an individual.
Yeah. Like you can't rush development, a child's development. I just find you just can't rush certain young men and young women into doing what you want them to do. So
right. Right. I had a conversation with one of our technicians. It's actually your PFM ceramist, and she's wonderful. And she's a Korean woman in her 50s, and she has a daughter that's in her 20s, and just finished, graduated from college, and did very well, extremely well. In fact, she had her choice of medical school or law school. And, we were having the conversation that both parents wanted her to go to medical school, but she chose law school. And I told her, I said, you know what? Hey, if she's convinced law school is it, she's convinced for the reasons. But I remember our conversation. She was mad, quite mad that her daughter wasn't going into medical school. But I told her, just trust her, trust the process.
And you know what? I mean, let's face it, law school's not a bad choice either, Bob.
It's not. Most
parents would say, boy, those are two pretty darn good choices and two good career paths. So
absolutely.
If someone ever has the magic formula to how to have children do what you want them to do, please let me know, or at least you could send me the link.
And me too, definitely. I need that manual also. We need to create a system. Somebody out there needs to create a system on how to raise the kids.
But you know what? I'll leave you on this note with that. And I always said to my sons that, pick a career that, you're going to like, number one, because the worst feeling, and I think this, and again, I'll get to this in a minute. I think a lot of dentists they graduate, they do it all correctly, and then they realize, wow, this profession isn't what I thought, and they're just not happy getting up and going to work every day. And that, I really believe, has got to be one of the worst feelings that a human can experience, is getting up every day knowing you have to do it economically and you don't want to do it. So what I said to my sons was, pick something that you're going to like, make sure it's an honest living, and just be happy with yourself and work hard, and things will take care of themselves. And they all followed that advice. And what I'll leave you on this note is this: as parents, our children have to be happy with what they're doing long after we're unfortunately expired from the planet. So I've always kept that thought in mind when in raising these boys, of what might be a good fit for them. So they all found their way, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. And I've had similar conversations with a daughter. I've said, pick something you like, that you're genuinely interested in, and it won't be work. It'll be fun. You'll be interested in it. And if you're able to carve out a living doing it, then you won't ever work a day in your life. You'll actually enjoy what you do for a living. You can call it work, but it really won't be work.
Well, I get it. I get this all the time, and I'll leave this thought here. People say to me all the time, "Hey, doc, are you thinking of retiring or whatever?" Because they see my gray hair now. I'm like, all right. So they say, "You think of retiring?" And you know what my answer is? I still enjoy what I'm doing. I said, the day it's not fun anymore, that's the day then I know that it will be time to go. But for right now, and I think for the short foreseeable future, I'm still loving life and enjoying this. So
that's beautiful. And that's what my father used to say also. And in fact, he he would say, the same thing you just did, but he would say, well, it's called the practice of dentistry. When I perfect it, that's when I'm going to retire.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, Bob.
Well, Dr. Rista, thank you so much for all your words of advice, encouragement, and everything. And I know, you and I will talk before we put a link out to your office, but I know you're going to get many of the Dental Lab podcast listeners contacting you because, in my opinion, you're easily in the top 1% of offices of dental practices in the country. And there would be a lot of, I just hope that some young dentists do reach out to you for advice, because you have created a wonderful practice. 21st Century Dental, Tinton Falls, New Jersey. It's at the peak.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. And we'll work out the shipment for your blue label. I know we'll get it there. I promise you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob. Have a good day.
Okay. Take care, Dr. Rista.
As always.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Dental Up podcast, your daily source for insights from dentists and leaders in the industry. This episode is sponsored by Keating Dental Lab, here to add value to your dental practice. With high-quality restorations, friendly, reliable service, the best products and prices, come experience the Keating difference. Visit KeatingDentalLab.com for details.